Our next guest is Khara Campbell. And Khara writes, I think I'm pronouncing her name right. It's Khara, but she has a book called Don't Count Me Out. It's her new book, but she has several books out, and she writes mostly romance, as far as I know. But we're gonna let her explain her genre to us, and because I don't want to misstate anything about her work. So, Khara, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great, doing
Thank
great.
you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Well,
Well,
thank you for being here. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
we
Thank you.
do, and you have uh several books that you've written. And tell us about, are you in one specific genre, or are you cross genres, or how would you characterize your work?
My books are cross genres, romance, Christian fiction, and also I have a children's book. But for the past few years, the most recent books have been Christian fiction, romance.
Okay, so it's Christian fiction romance. Now,
Yes.
is that a subgenre of Christian fiction?
To me, it's not, but for some people, yes.
Christians are not supposed to fall in love. I don't know where you got that idea.
Well, they're not supposed to have
They
sex.
cannot be
The
romantic.
falling in love is fine. It's the sex
Christians have sex.
Oh,
Christian and
sarcastic.
my
I hope
books
you
have
know that.
them. So
It was
my books have
tongue in
them.
cheek.
But I was just playing. I don't know about
Yeah.
Gwen. She might have been serious.
That was tongue in cheek. No, that's all. It's a lot of, it's always Christians being born. So it's a lot of sex going on. So
Yes.
but some people aren't comfortable reading about that in a Christian fiction book.
Well, my readers are not. They are very comfortable
Wonderful.
reading it. So,
Okay.
yes, I have no issues with that. My characters are not perfect characters. And Christianity, faith, we're not perfect beings. And so I like to show the strength of the characters, how they changed, how they evolved over the course of time, but they're not perfect.
That's true. None of us are perfect.
For me, I would rather read a Christian who is not perfect. I think sometimes with Christian fiction, we get so caught up into making the person seem perfect, and we do it in real life. We feel like the pastor has to be perfect, the deacon has to be perfect, and then when they fall off of that perfect platform, then we want to beat them up.
Exactly.
So I prefer to read people, because I'm not a perfect person, so I don't expect my leaders, my spiritual leaders, or my fellow Christians to be perfect either.
Yes.
So sometimes it makes me feel a little better to read about somebody who might be going through the same struggle.
It's relatable. You can relate to them. And that's my characters. That's the characters that I write. People, one of the things a lot of readers tell me about, like, I can relate to so-and-so. I've experienced that myself, or I've seen it, with other people. Like, it's relatable. And it's believable. And it's like, it gives them hope. Instead of some Christian fictions, like you mentioned, Dr. Lawson, that it's the characters are too perfect. Like, I can't live up to this. Like, whose life is like this? Nobody's life is perfect, regardless of how they may try to make it seem. It's not.
Right.
Also, it's not believable or realistic when a person, every response to when somebody asks or somebody's in a situation, their response is to quote scripture in some of the books. That's just not real life. That's not what happened.
I had a friend like that. And I'm telling you, it would irritate me. I would say something like, "Oh, this is killing me." No, it is not killing you, Rhonda, because you remember, she would start quoting scripture to me, and I'm like, can I just be tired of what I'm doing right now?
Exactly. Like, I don't need that right now. Like, I can pick up the Bible myself and read it myself, but I don't need, like, it's not relating to you at that moment. People mean well. They do mean well, but sometimes it's not the time.
Right. So tell us, the name of your book is, I'm sorry, Don't Count Me Out?
Is that the newest one, or?
It's not, well, it's the one before the last one I did. I haven't put out any. Actually, you know what? That is the last one. Don't count me out. I have so many. I'm sorry.
How many books do
But did
you
you
have?
have some of them with you so you
I
can share
have
some good
over
ones?
20.
Okay,
Wonderful.
good.
So, but yes,
Congratulations.
don't count me out. That is the latest one. And I wrote two other ones too that I hope to release in the upcoming year. That's why my mind is kind of,
Yeah, the thing about now, do you self-publish or are you with a publisher?
I self-publish.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say the thing about being with a publisher, the book that you're promoting is not the book that you're working on. Like, because they take 2 years more or less for the books to come out. I think
Right.
romances may come out quicker, but when you're talking about the book, you might be working two books back or
Exactly.
and you have to
Yeah.
try to remember the plots and storylines and not getting confused. I think that would be confusing for me, but you have to promote the book when it gets released. That's what you have to do.
Yes.
Now, do you have some of your books handy so you can show us some of them? Did
I
you,
do not. I
you
do not.
didn't
I'm
have any
sorry.
books with you?
I don't. Well, I guess like I will have to go and like dig them out. Like I can't just pull it off the shelf right
Well,
now.
no,
The
if
whole
you have
book.
to dig them out, then don't worry. But if you were gonna run and just pull it from somewhere, then we
No,
Yeah.
I
can do
can't
it.
just run and pull.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
that's
Oh,
okay.
well,
Well,
listen.
somebody in one we had a comment asking what was the name of the book with the person in the red dress. Did you have a book with the person with the red dress on the cover?
It's a red. I know there is one. She has a red bathing suit. That's Bahama Love. And I
Maybe that
can
was
go on Amazon and look at all the covers right now too,
it.
but that's the first one that comes in my mind with someone with the red dress on. That's Bahama Love.
Oh, she
And
said no,
that,
that's not the one she's talking about.
okay.
I guess she'll type and clarify which one she's talking about. I did want to point out that you live down the street from me.
Oh,
Yeah, I live in Silver Spring, but I'm moving to Accokeek soon.
you said you live in Silver Spring, but
Gonna move to Accokeek.
we'll be neighbors.
See?
Now, how big is Akakid? I've only
It's
heard of
about
it
this big.
recently because after this, do you know Kevin Johnson? He's a pastor. He's a pastor. He's also an author, and he does the Christian books on tour. I think he lives in Akaki.
So this one, I think, is what she's talking about with the red. That is
Okay.
Can't Love What I Don't Trust. So that's a book one and book two. So that
Okay.
is a romance. That is not Christian fiction, it's a romance.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's based in the Bahamas, where I'm from. So you would get the cultural Bahamian Caribbean vibes with that book.
Okay. I was going
So
to
that,
ask you about that because I could hear your accent.
yes.
So, how long have you been in the United States?
Oh, over 20 years.
Okay.
22, I
Okay.
think,
But that
exactly.
Caribbean accent and accents from African countries, they they're still there, and I don't know if people want them to be there or
I
um.
do.
Okay, well,
I do.
why not embrace your heritage? So
Yeah, I do. And it's just how I talk, even though nobody else around me. My husband is American, my kids are born here, so they don't, but it's who I am.
yeah. So, Kara, does your name have any kind of a meaning or significance? Is it a family name?
No, my mother told me, I know because it's spelled Khara.
Mhm.
People ask, and you know what the interesting thing about my name too, though, Americans are probably one of the only people that messes my name up. I don't understand it. It's Kara. I get Kara. I get Kahara. to the point where I'm like, okay,
Because we're used to people trying to be fancy with their names.
yeah, maybe, but
Yeah, it doesn't have an apostrophe. Now that's the thing.
yeah,
Apostrophe
it's just Khara.
somewhere.
But my mother told me, because I asked her about it, because interestingly enough, I hated my name, how it was spelled when I was younger. And I'm like, Khara, everybody else spelled it Kara or Cara. Where's this H coming from? But she said when I was born, the doctor, she was trying to figure out a name and the doctor suggested it or something and she went with it. And I'm like, okay. So
That's
Oh.
interesting.
Now you're
that's that.
Well, that's interesting. So do you have a particular uh consistent theme in your books, or um setting or storyline? What do you want people to get a particular meaning or message from your books? What would you say?
Yes, definitely.
What
Like
just
I
needs to
said,
be entertained?
like I said, my most recent I think 8 or so novels have been Christian fiction. Um and the biggest thing is I I want when I write my novels, I want it to be where somebody who wouldn't read a Christian fiction would read my book.
Yes.
Um, that's so even a lot of times, even when I market it, I don't necessarily market it as a Christian fiction because I want to draw those people in. And I've gotten so many readers telling me, oh my gosh, I would have never picked this up had I known, or I've never read a Christian fiction, but oh my gosh, you have me hooked.
Mhm.
Like that's my whole inspiration when I'm writing. Like I want to draw those people in who would never have picked up Christian fiction.
Right.
But my characters are flawed. Like they are real life people going through real life situations. And I just want to show how their growth and the progression through whatever circumstance they're dealing with, how they overcome them. For instance, my last novel, Don't Count Me Out. Carter, he is a divorcee. His wife left him. I don't want to spoil it, but he's divorced.
Um,
And then Whitley, she has 4 kids with 3 different fathers. So, a baby mama with different baby daddies. Society would say, oh, she doesn't deserve love and happiness and, whatever, because society has labeled her whatever they want to label her.
Mhm.
And I just want to show redeeming factors of, we make certain choices in our life, but that doesn't define us. Like we can change, we can evolve, and you will see that with Whitley and Carter.
yeah, you would hate to be defined by your mistakes, you know.
Right. And I think often we define ourselves, people have moved on past our mistakes. God has forgiven us,
Yeah.
but we haven't totally forgiven ourselves. And we start to sometimes unconsciously define ourselves by
Yeah.
our mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. Um, Forgiving ourselves is sometimes the most hardest thing for us to do. Like other people forgive us, we receive forgiveness from God, but forgiving ourselves, oh my gosh,
Right.
it's so hard because we sit with whatever it is that we did. We're just sitting with that daily. It's going over and over in our minds. Like
Mhm.
we're just so angry with ourselves. We're ashamed. We can't let it go. Um, but it's just every day making that decision. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to better myself, better my life, forgive myself for the mistakes I made. It's not the end of the world. It's a new day. Start over.
Amen. Amen.
That's
So that's the premise of this story. Don't Count Me Out.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Thank you.
Now, in your Christian fiction, are your characters regular churchgoers?
Not all of them.
Okay, but they are Christians.
They are.
Okay.
Not all of them
Not
now.
all of them are Christians.
Not no.
Well,
Not all of them start out
in
like them.
your life, you would everybody you encounter is not going to be a Christian.
There's some cussing in there. I tame it. I keep it respectful because that's not the focus of it.
Right.
But I do make my characters authentic. Like if I want to say he's a gangster, you're going to believe he's a gangster.
Right.
If I'm making it believable. But at the same time, I'm not glorifying something that I may not necessarily believe in personally, but I am portraying a character. I'm an author. I create characters and situation and worlds and stories, so I want it to be believable.
That's the way to go. I love it. So now you mentioned that some of your books are not Christian books. So do you kind of go back and forth with genres, or not, or are you totally a Christian author now? Christian fiction?
I am, that's my focus right now. That is definitely my focus right now. But you know, it can switch because I did do my sister-in-law, she challenged me to do what is it? It's Killing You Softly. It's kind of like suspense, thriller type of, and I really enjoyed writing that. That's a few years ago. So when I have an inspiration, something comes, I'm like, okay, let me try that. One of the genres I really love reading is what is it? I have it in a brain freeze. Historical fictions.
Oh yes.
I love historical fictions, but I don't think I can pull it off.
It takes a lot of research,
Yes,
dedication. You can't
yes,
just sit down and just write it really quickly.
exactly. Absolutely. Like I love it, but I don't think I can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like I've written in multiple genres, not fiction. The fiction is just mystery thriller, 2 books. But I don't think I can write that. Well, I didn't think I could write fiction till I did it, so you never know.
Yeah.
But I like writing about the now. I like my stories to be in contemporary in today's world. So
Right.
because when I read a lot of historical fiction, and I'm amazed that just the cadences, the language,
Yes.
if they're doing people from, for example, slavery time with
Exactly. Yeah.
um, dialects, and you have to keep that going throughout the entire book.
Yes, it has to
That
be consistent. Yeah.
Mhm.
that takes real work.
Yeah. Yeah. I because Joan Bassar, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, last name. She's one of historical fiction writers that I love. But yeah, it's just because it takes you to that entire world. Like
Right,
you're there.
right. You're
Right.
back there, whatever the time
Yes.
period is.
Yep.
And well, if it's done right,
Exactly. Exactly.
it does that. And that takes a real talent. It's a
Yeah.
real
But that's something I'm interested in, but I don't think I can.
I was just about to ask you if you were going to try to challenge yourself and put together a story.
I do like challenging myself because that's one thing I do like. If I think of a story, I'm like, let me try it out. But really, I don't think I can. Like maybe I may have to go not too far back, maybe the 80s.
Oh, that's historical now.
Well, technically that is historical fiction.
Exactly,
We
exactly.
refuse to believe that the 80s was that long ago.
Right.
You had to be like 50 years back for it to be truly historical. I don't know
Yeah.
if the 80s would be counted as
Well,
historical.
I'm 50 years old right now. I was born in 1973. So
Okay.
50 years ago is a story that was written in the 70s. So I could write a historical fiction that was written in the 70s.
The
Yeah.
70s, yeah, but the 80s, I don't know. But anyway, it could be because the 70s, you can kind of put the 60s and the 70s together. That time period, it kind of flowed into the 60s was more the movement and all of that. The 70s was more the aftermath and like music and a lot of fashion and the hair and all of that. So you had it was a transition time, but they kind of went together, you know. But the 80s was completely different, and so I don't know. But have I read any historical fiction from the 80s? Have you read any books
I
on that?
have. There
Yeah,
is one. It's We Made Love in the 80s.
that's the
Uh,
title.
that's the title. We Made Love in
Oh,
the 80s. I love that book. It just took me back. I felt like I was back because I was born in 1980.
okay.
So yeah, it's just, you know, the language, the clothes, the music, like she took me, I was there. I felt like I was in the 80s. And that's what I love about historical fictions. Or, you know, a certain era. Since you said the 80s isn't the 80s, it doesn't go too far back. We can say that era. I felt like I was in that era.
Well, a lot of authors will write about their formative years, about the era of their formative years,
Yeah.
whenever that is. And so, nowadays it does count as historical,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how
Absolutely.
far back. And if you live through that period, that's one thing. But when you go back like 100 years, 150 years, or 200 years, then that's all research. That's
Yeah,
all.
it is.
You know, uh,
Definitely.
you have to spend a lot of time. You have to actually go to the library. I don't think you can't do it all online. That's one of those situations where you have to actually and you have to access newspapers from that time and that kind of thing. And for the most part, those are not going to be online. Those are going to be in a library somewhere. Um, and there is that
Yeah,
place, newspaper.com. I don't know how much access they have to how far back they go.
right.
Um,
Well, now we're talking about this imaginary historical fiction novel you're about to write. Do you have another book that you're working on now?
So the next book that I hope to release, maybe February. Um, so I can put it out today if I wanted to, but um,
Timing is everything.
right, exactly. Which is, you know, that's something that as a writer, you would think that would be so easy, but timing is so key to like it just factors into so many different things. But um that one that I hope to release next year, early next year. What is the title of that one? I tell you, my brain. I have written so many because it's two that I've already written ready, but I'm still doing a little fine tuning certain things. But that one in particular, so the main character, she grew up in the church. Her father, because you asked me if they're all in the church. This one in particular, she is. She grew up in the church. Her father, he is the worship leader at the church.
okay.
And so she encounters the bad boy in the neighborhood when they're growing up. And so, you know, even though they're older now, he had the reputation from he was younger that carried through up to adulthood. And they encounter, and we just see how, you know, their world, her world, his world, how they influence each other. So that is one I hope to release February, March, maybe. And then the other one, it's Island Sisters. So it's, again, I'm taking it back to the Bahamas. So it's three sisters and their kind of dysfunctional relationship and
Mm.
just how they work through like childhood trauma, hurts, certain things they're going through and just how they work through all of that. But that one is based in the Bahamas and the title is Island Sisters. So maybe I will release that one during the summer because who doesn't like being in the Bahamas during the summer? So
Yeah, I can't be mad at that.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Bahamas, Rhonda?
I'm sorry. No, yes, I have been to the Bahamas.
Yeah, see, I've been to the Caribbean, but not the Bahamas. I've been to Jamaica. Well, I always go on cruises, and none of the cruises that I've been on have stopped in the Bahamas. It's always
Oh,
Jamaica, Mexico, of course. That's always the first stop from
okay.
Florida or Texas. But St. Thomas, St. Martin. And I've been to Central America. Just haven't been to the Bahamas. Just haven't
Gotta
been
make that. Put it there. It's too closer
there.
to the US not to go.
Amen. I'll have to make that on my bucket list of destinations.
There
So,
you go.
Khara, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And keep writing. And
Thank you.
I love the Christian fiction aspect. I have one other question about Christian fiction. Do you think that that's a if well, two questions. If somebody knows something is Christian fiction, do you think that they kind of automatically reject it if it's not part of what they read, like not part of what they would normally read? And two,
Yes.
do you think it's growing? Do you think that genre is growing?
So if a person who wouldn't necessarily read Christian fiction, if they see it labeled as Christian fiction, the majority probably won't. I've gotten that. I have gotten that from readers. Um, where they said, oh my gosh, I look at the cover and I'm like, I was so intrigued. I read it without knowing. Some of them read it
Okay.
without knowing. And then when
That's
they
a good
read it, they're
thing.
like, oh my gosh, I was hooked. Like you got me in there. Because otherwise, had I known, I would have not picked up your book.
Okay.
So I have gotten that a lot, which is why I mentioned earlier that sometimes I don't market it as Christian fiction for that very reason,
Well,
because I
sometimes
want to draw
well,
people in. Is it growing? I don't think Christian fiction and African American Christian fiction in particular is as big as the other genres. It's not. I really hope it picks up, that it grows, it gets bigger, but it's not as popular as the other genres. It's not. So, but that's my hope, that it will thrive and more people are attracted to it, and just give it a chance. I think that's the biggest thing. People automatically have this stigma, Christian fiction, they're going to be boring. I think that's what probably sticks in people's mind too, or it's going to be judgy, or um, all of that stuff, all these different, they're prejudging the book, like don't judge the book by the cover. People are prejudging it because of the genre it is. But if you're one of those people that have not tried Christian fiction, please, even if it's just try with one of my books. Try with one to try if you're new to it is uh Send Her to Me, Lord,
okay.
or When a Man Loves a Woman. So
Okay.
they're one of the two of mine that I would say give it a try.
Okay.
Christian fiction.
Well, we did put your link in the chat. We can, so our readers or our listeners can watch or read Don't Count Me Out, and they can look for your other books as well.
Yes, they're all on Amazon. They're all listed there. So please, yes, give it a try. And then when you read it, and I got you hooked, because I'm praying that I do, just send me an email or message me on social media, though I have taken a little social media break.
Right.
I hope to be back on soon, but you can always email me.
Well,
So,
that's a great last word. Thank you so much, Khara, for joining us tonight. Really enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully we'll be able to meet up in person one of these days since we don't live far apart.
yes, right around the corner. That's right.
Yes. So you keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, and congratulations on everything.
All right. Thank you.
All right, take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.